So would Georgia ever get tired of Kirby Smart? Stick with me here, and a lot of this is coming off the basketball national championship. And Ryan, it was I don't think it was shocking, but to see John Calipari get pushed out or leave Lexington, Kentucky, I am well aware and remember a time when that he was the toast of the town. They couldn't get him out of there fast enough, and they didn't even have to pay the $30 million. Comments on that, and then could that happen to Kirby? I mean, we're however many years into it, and do coaches always get old? You think about Dabo. I mean, Nick Saban didn't get old, but go ahead, Ryan.
It could happen to Kirby. I don't think that's. I don't think anyone's safe from that. It would take a different situation than with Cal. What was it with Cal? Just first round exits against teams you shouldn't be losing to. Right? Anything can happen in those first two games of the tournament. We say that over and over again. But there's a
Yeah,
certain point
including
where
winning.
you have too
You're
much
allowed to
talent
win a
to
game
not
if
go
you're
for.
Kentucky too. You know.
Yeah, too much talent to not go forward. If that starts happening with Georgia and they start going back to the 8-4 seasons with all these number one classes and stuff like that, if that were to happen for a stretch of 5 years or something, then I think you start making a question. But it would just take more losing, really. I mean, if they're the standards that they're contenders, and I think that he finally defined that recently. I don't know if they ever really defined exactly what the standard is. They just throw that word out there.
What
And
is it?
recently, he pretty much said the standard is to contend for a championship. And so, if they're not reaching that standard, then yeah, I think you have to. Then you're if you're an athletic director, you have to start looking elsewhere if that's the standard at Georgia.
Yeah, I think losing to Georgia Tech and losing to Florida gets you fired. That's what it is. You start losing to those two, I don't care who you are. I mean, you're going to go. And, part of me thinks that it's going to take a lot for him to even get on the hot seat. But when if Georgia doesn't play for another national championship for 5 to 6 years? And then everyone starts talking about, well, they haven't hit the standard in 3 or 4 years or so on and so on. Every year after that, he's got it to a point where they need to get back soon, or people are going to question what happened. This was, a loss to Alabama in 2023 away from a possible three-peat, a dynasty that not even Nick Saban in Alabama was going to do. So if they don't get back there within the next few years, there are going to be some questions about, can Kirby Smart get back there? Is Georgia going backwards? And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kirby Smart will win probably multiple more national championships at Georgia. But yeah, if for some reason, and I cover recruiting, I know who Florida's bringing in. I know who Georgia Tech is bringing in. And he shouldn't be losing to either one of those programs anytime soon, Dean. But if he does, that's how you get fired at Georgia.
We don't. We can't see the future, and if you, I just Kentucky. I have a friend that covered Kentucky closely. I have teammates from college who are big Kentucky guy. They're Kentucky Wildcat fans, and from 10 to 15, from 2010 to 2015, Kentucky, they only won one national championship. They lost the national championship with an undefeated team. I think it was less than the Final Four to Wisconsin. They went to the Final Four it was rolling. And then the SEC changed. And Bruce Pearl got to Auburn in 14, and by 17, they were rolling. Rick Barnes at Tennessee. Florida with Mike White, frankly. And then just the league changed. And all of a sudden, Kentucky was no longer the big dog. The league just changed, Ryan, in the SEC. Now you do have Oklahoma. Now you do have Texas. The problem with comparing football to basketball, there are several problems comparing football to basketball, but typically speaking, in basketball, the only thing that matters is the tournament. That's not really the case in football right now, but it could become the case. I don't think that this will happen. I'm just saying, there was never a better fit than Cal at Kentucky, and that divorce it's happened.
I mean, the last time that they reached a Final Four was 15.
I think that's right.
Right, so we're talking about that's 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's unacceptable.
That's
It's
a
completely
long time.
unacceptable.
That's a long time because it's a program like Kentucky that you want those championships, and that's Kentucky is a basketball program the way that Georgia is
Right.
a football program. So I do like obviously when you have won as much and you've done as much for the university as Kirby has, the margin of error lengthens a little bit, and there's probably going to be a little bit more slack. I don't think that we're going to get to this point, and I see Kirby going out on his own terms more than anything else. But in the future, but it would take, I think, at least 5 years of disappointment.
I didn't think, Matt, that you can go on with your statement. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I was just thinking. You said it was kind of a marriage and a really good fit between Kentucky and Calipari, and I'm thinking, is there one in college football better than Georgia and Kirby Smart? I mean, is that a better fit than Nick Saban and Alabama was, or any other? I mean, does that make sense? Yeah.
I do think that Dabo and Clemson are a great like that's a great fit. He's just not winning the way he did. That's all.
Yeah. And Harbaugh was a great fit at Michigan and finally got that. That was huge. Yeah. No doubt about it. But yeah, it's going to take a lot, I think, for people to get to the point where they start to even question Kirby Smart after what he's done. Because I also think what you do on the recruiting trail matters. And I think that helped Calipari a lot, too, because he was also bringing in 5 stars. So at that point, you're like, how are we ever going to get rid of this guy? Well, he started losing in a big way, and that's going to happen at Georgia. I can't even think of a possibility of Georgia not even getting into the top 12, right? They would have to miss out on the playoffs several times, which seems, really tough to even comprehend. But I get the topic and it's worth talking about, but yeah, a lot would have to happen, I think.
Yeah, but the failure in March is one thing, but specifically watching Tennessee become a better program than you are when you're Kentucky, that to me, Ryan, was something that I can report that is an unacceptable thing, and people got really bothered, my Kentucky friends, when I would say, well, I mean, Tennessee's just a better program, and like they get mad when you say that about Kansas, Duke, Carolina, and whoever else. But mainly those. But if you're saying that about Tennessee, which they clearly are a better program, they really get aggravated with that. Auburn coming up, what didn't help, and then you also, I'm leaving out Alabama, but it was just they're getting cut everywhere. And Kentucky, and this can happen at Georgia, this can happen to South Carolina women, this can happen anywhere and everywhere. Georgia tennis is not what it used to be. Georgia gymnastics. Things can change, and Kentucky's getting cut everywhere. And you look at Georgia's future, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU is not going to, I mean, Florida's not going to be bad forever. Tennessee, it's difficult, Ryan.
Yeah, I think as far as something that would make people feel better that this would maybe not happen with Kirby is Coach Cal he wasn't very secretive about how big of a goal it was to get those guys into the league and how much of it's an NBA pipeline, and the goal moved away from national championships. Now, I'm not in their building, and I know that they want to win national championships and everything, but there were other motives. And at Georgia, there's one, and it's to win that trophy at the end of the year. And it wouldn't be exactly the same in football, right? Just having an NFL factory and an NBA factory, it's not exactly the same concept. But the winning in football also equates to those kids getting the opportunity to move on to the next level. We're seeing it over and over again with Georgia getting all those players drafted and competing for national championships. So I think that's kind of the other portion of that is I just don't think the goal was 100% focused on that.
Yeah, definitely is at Georgia, and they use that on the recruiting trail in the living rooms. And that's still their pitch. Look what we did with Trayvon Walker, defensive lineman, first round pick, and all these offensive tackles. The goal is the national championship, but I think right there with it, they love the fact that they're doing very well with the NFL draft. And I know, Ryan, you look at that a big deal. You're a big NFL draft guy, and they've been breaking records, and they've got egos too. They look at that, and they're smiling. They're having their little parties on draft night, and like you said, I think Cal was all about that. But the money that these dogs are earning in the NFL, it's turned into a very easy recruiting pitch, and that's a big reason why they're going to Texas and getting the number 1 linebacker in the country, and going to New Jersey for the quarterback they want, and so on and so on, and that of course turns into championships.
Charlie Warner. Was he making like $8 million a year? He gets what one
Good.
catch a game.
Good
Like,
for him.
there's your pitch.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. Thanks for watching.